Malole soifua I lawa fionga maluseo. Whaptai mo le whaavano e no lo te mi le nei tai au.
Good morning, Samoa. Thank you for having me this morning, especially for a volunteer week. As I feel like sometimes people don't know that Samoans volunteer, but we have volunteered our whole life. So I'm grateful for this platform to talk to people, especially our young Samoans, on how they could give back.
That's it. Iyo e sa on le lava lawa fionga maluseo. Mata tatala no anga whamole o whea no o Samoa te sau mai ai.
So my mom is from Bainganga and Malie, and my dad is from Lepa and American Samoa.
Le nuo fianga pango. Very nice. Maluseo now. Brown girl woke. Mo ilato e le o sila fia fo ile nei fa ala potopotonga. O le ale winga o le brown girl woke o hafo ina ngaluenga to te whaatino ina.
So Brown Girl Woke is a nonprofit. I started Brown Girl Woke when I was in university in America, and it was something for all brown girls to understand what's happening in social justice issues, what's happening in our community, and especially for Pacific Islanders or even Samoans that are in the diaspora, to not only understand the history of the countries that they're in, but know our own history and making sure that we can fight, from the diaspora to Samoa on what are the injustices we're dealing with. So Brown Girl is for all girls of color, and woke is to be informed and educated on social justice issues. So putting the whole name together is making people accountable, especially brown girls. I don't think brown girls understand that how much intersectionality that we have to go through. We're women of color. We're young, we're old, all the different expectations that we have to understand how do we deal with social justice issues.
And if Yatau Sanga, how long has it been since you've started volunteering?
I've been volunteering. You know what? I've been volunteering my whole life. Like I said, I think all Samoans, I think if we say voluntold, we would understand. But we grow up volunteering, and every time I go into schools or villages or communities and talk about volunteering, for my organization, I've been volunteering since 2014 when I started Brown Girl Woke. But I started volunteering in church. We learned, it's almost ingrained in us as in our Samoan culture to always give back, to always clean something, to always, do it not only for our Heavenly Father, but for our family, for our churches, for our villages. We're always giving back. But I don't think we understood that was volunteering. So every time I go and talk about volunteering, I'm like, we've been volunteering our whole lives as Samoans.
Mali e toa fia ni tangata po ni whanau for your lot of volunteer i tono le whaala putonga le Brown Girl Work. How many volunteers do you have?
So we have at least 60 volunteers. So we have, they're all from university level, and then we have young professionals. So 60 youth, young girls and young boys.
How do you get so many kids or university students to volunteer?
So we're always going into the university, and we always have workshops. It's open to anybody, and we do workshops in the university to go to the youth to understand what's happening and making sure that we hear what's going on with them, their generation. Like, I'm not going to speak for your generation. You have to tell me. And then unfortunately, a lot of youth don't know what's happening in Samoa. Parliament and politics can feel so far away from their knowledge. So bringing those type of workshops into the university, asking kids what do they think about things, and learning from them, then asking them to join the fight. So we're always in the university. We do different workshops. We do stuff on domestic violence, sexual violence. We also do stuff on vulnerable families, all these type of discussions so they could understand why we're in the predicament we're in. Why is there poverty in Samoa? Why is there gender equality issues in Samoa? And if they want to be a part of it, come with us and go into the villages and learn more. Because a lot of us just stay in our same spaces, and not understand like what's going on in our country. So volunteering lets them go into the country, lets them give back to their own people, and just have more an understanding why we need help, why you can't leave the country, why leave the country and come back and give back to Samoa.
What are some highlights po ni vaenga lilei talua na amataina le Brown Girl Woke o aninga luenga ua mawhaia ona fisosoani e li whaala putuputonga lea I tutono o Samoa?
I think the biggest highlights is that we're in the curriculums now for schools. So we do safety programs. As we know, there's been a really huge hike on suicide here in Samoa and also on sexual violence. A lot of the schools have asked us to be in their curriculum throughout the year. And it's just safety tips for young kids in primary level. So we're lucky to have a lot of the Catholic schools ask us to come in and make sure the kids understand stranger danger, their body, their safety, safe adults. So we go into the schools the whole year. And that's a big highlight because, a lot of schools can be scared for a group to come in to talk about those things, but we know it's needed. So we're thankful for the schools that allow us to go into their school to teach about safety. And then another huge highlight is that we've gone regional. So now we work in Fiji and through the Pacific, and we're getting training from other countries that are more developed and teaching us more work that we can do to give back to Samoa. And it's Samoans. We usually see other races coming into Samoa and teaching. Now we can bring our own local kids, go to Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, learn, and then come back and teach the villages and the churches here.
Wow, that's huge. Mole vaenga leo le Brown Girl Woke, o lea le vaenga o lo tau la ye le ai right now I le te milene. What is Brown Girl Woke's focus right now I tutono o Samoa? What are some issues you are targeting I tutono o Samoa?
So our biggest target is youth advocacy and mental health and suicide. It's huge. Like I said earlier, the numbers are so high. So what we do is, and why we train youth is that peer mentorship. We don't have resources in Samoa. We only have one therapist here. We only have one mental health unit at the hospital. We just need to train up our youth to understand why we have, how to go through issues, what mental health is, and just keep advocating for each other, just keep empowering each other. And I feel like that's what's going to help us, because we don't have resources, is to build our youth up and understand and hear what they're going through, and advocating and promoting that there's a word to something that you're going through, and that if they research it, then we'll have less numbers of suicide. So our biggest work right now is to train youth up so we can talk about mental health.
And what would you like to see as the director, le whaatonu o le whaala putuputonga lea, what would you like to see in Samoa with the help of Brown Girl Woke?
I like to see policies changing in the schools on child protection laws. We still don't have really good, strong policies with youth to speak out. We're still our Samoan culture is very strong in the schools where they go straight to the parents, but we need a better process. So I want to see more policies for youth to feel safe to speak out about abuse, about violence, and giving them a platform that they're in the parliament sessions, that they're in these spaces, that they feel like they don't have a voice. Yeah.
Maluseo lea sa e tala noa I ngaluenga o loo whaia e tupulanga tala vaupo o whanau university I tutono a ingo lo o lato fisosoani atu ai. So what are some of the help that these kids support? How are they able to help vulnerable families? And what are some of the volunteer work they do?
So a lot of our youth, we go into all the businesses. We give them letters to donations to vulnerable families. We learned a lot during the measles pandemic, and then also with COVID, what we needed the most and how to give back to the families. We also made like a registry for families. So a lot of our kids work on our website and make sure that there's applications for people to apply. And if they go into the churches, to make sure we try to find as many different ways to help families and to get the data and the information we need to help families. So the youth do that. They do applications in our office. They also go into the villages and we give groceries to the families, the most vulnerable families. We do it kind of like a welfare system. When they do the application, we see if their families are working, how many children they have, and this is what they're exposed to. What our youth need to be exposed to understand why there's vulnerable families. How can we help them? How can we help them be self-efficient, self-reliant? So a lot of our work, the kids, if they're not going into the villages giving groceries, we're doing musicals, we're doing plays, talk about mental health, going to the villages, also doing cleanups. We talked about climate change. That's huge for our organization. We do beach cleanups. We do cleanups in the ocean, just making ways for youth to know the smallest things they can do to change our change in Samoa is like always giving back. Think of ways that other people can do it as well. Yeah. So, it's been amazing. The youth love it. We also go and give out reusable pads. We're the only organization that gives like 3,000 reusable pads in the country. We go and do workshops. So a lot of their volunteerism is when we give donations, we don't just give it. We actually make sure that it's a workshop and people understand why we're giving it, how do we give back, and how do we make it sustainable.
That is so important, and it reminds me na yese vaengana au mai yese fautuanga se tasi fo o volunteer I tutono New Zealand fai mai awane e fesilia tu ile tamai titi or what they want to be when they grow up. I fesilia what problem do you want to solve when you grow older? So whaptei atu lava I lawa fionga maluseo. Last question whamulmole. O le asa fautuanga le asa e talanoa, the Samoans in the diaspora, they are able to help and give back I tutono le atunu through Brown Girl Woke. O le asa fautuanga mo ilato who are interested in volunteering, who live abroad and want to get into this work and help out. Fa feana lato fisoswani le vaenga o le asa fautuanga mo ilato.
This year was the first year we actually opened up to have volunteers from overseas. So we had 3 amazing young university students from Australia or just youth professionals donate their time. I think it was like 3 months this year. So it's just emailing Brown Girl Woke, telling us, what you're interested in, and then coming over to Samoa. If you have family here, stay with them as long as you can, and then give back. Because a lot of people always ask, how can we give back to Brown Girl Woke or Samoa? I think the biggest give back is you actually coming to the country and understanding it more. Because it always seems so simple, on a computer far away. But it's not. It's actually really hard, and it's I think a good way to understand how can we help when you go back home, and and you can tell your family how it was to live in Samoa and how they can help. So just keep on email us, go on our Brown Girl Woke page, and even if whatever you're advocating for, especially I know a lot of people come over to Samoa and they already have ideas of what they want to do, but come to Samoa and observe and see what's happening on island. So that whatever your expertise in, and we need everybody. We need accountants. We need everybody in different areas. You don't have to just be a community activist or a speaker. In any background that you have, just come home and give back, and definitely message Brown Girl Woke so we can support you.
Yeah, definitely. Whamtei lava maluseo Doris Tulifau. You mentioned, Samoans, and of course, to atele nisi o loa veama volunteer I tutono le ngata o New Zealand, I tutono le atunu o Samoa. Ia maso se tafo le neke lope fesoswani whaalaputonga awale manuia o Samoa. But we wanted to highlight the work that you are doing, the work that you have done for a very long time. Loa tau sanga o lo e tau tua I tutono si o tato atunu, and we wanted to say thank you. Me le pulenga, me le awhenga luenga le Radio Samoa, whaptei lava mo le ngaluenga o lo e whaatinoina e le ngata I le fisoswani ei I whaalaputoputonga e se e me se lava o tupulanga talavo I tutono o le tato watunuu. So thank you again, Maluseo Doris, and pray that we do see more great things from Brown Girl Woke and also the volunteers. But thank you for your time, whaptei mo lo teimi le nei tai au manuia lava lava singa o le nei aso lulu. And before you go, I'm not quite sure whether you do have a team that you support for State of Origin. Do you?
Is that blues?
Yeah. It's New South Wales or Queensland. Who do you go for?
Okay. New South Wales, because I always help the Miss Samoa New South Wales.
Oh, I love it. All right. Yeah, that's the winning team for tonight. Thank you, Maluseo. Have a beautiful day.
Bye, sis.
Soifua. Whaatalanoanga nā ma le awhionga ia maluseu a Doris Tulifau le o loo avea ma whaatonu o le Brown Girl Woke i tutono Samoa ngā luenga o loo whaatinoina i le ngata o ia e mese o le to atele o tupulanga talavou o loo ofo o lato soifua o lato malosi ma lato teimi foi o wale tautua ina o le tatou atunu ia lewa maua New South Wales o loo lango ina e maluseu.